Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parshas Metzora, Tavshin Pei Beis. So Parshas Metzora is a continuation from last week's Parsha regarding discussion of tsaras. Tsaras is an affliction, a skin affliction, as we mentioned previously. It's a skin affliction that most of the time it's these white spots. There are other physical characteristics to this skin affliction that a Kohen needs to examine and to decide and to declare that this is the disease of tsaras, and it makes you ritually impure. Tsaras is sometimes translated as leprosy, but according to most commentaries, it's not leprosy. It's a physical manifestation of our sins. And again, if you have tsaras, you become impure. And if you become impure from tsaras, you have to be put into isolation. And when the affliction goes away, that's when our parsha begins discussing what does the person do. And the Torah is going to tell us that the person has to be examined by the Kohen. The same way the Kohen declared him impure, the Kohen has to declare that he's not impure anymore, or he doesn't have tsaras anymore. Then he has to bring a set of sacrifices, and he has to go through a ritual that purifies him. So Parshas Metzora, that's what our Parsha deals with. So Parshas Metzora, Perek Yudala Pasuk Beis, chapter 14, verse 2 begins. Zois tia teres ha-Metzora, this shall be the law of the Metzora. Metzora means the person stricken with tsaras. B'yom taharasai, B'yom taharasai, on the day that he becomes pure, v'huva ala kohen, he shall be brought to the Kohen. And then the Torah talks about the rest of what goes on. On this pasuk, on this verse, the Medrash brings a famous story. And the Medrash first begins with a pasuk in Tehillim, a verse from the Psalms, which we say every Shabbos morning. It's Tehillim Lamed Daled, Tehillim 34, Yud Gimel, verse 13. There the pasuk reads, Mi ha'isha chavetz chayim. Who is the person who wants life? Oyev yamim lereis taiv. Loves days to see good. Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Stray from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. That's the pasuk that the Medrash cites, and then it cites a story. It talks about a peddler who used to go around the cities near the city of Tzipurei in Israel. And this peddler used to announce, who wants to buy a potion for life? Who wants to buy an elixir for life? People heard that. They came running to hear what he had to say. Now, there was a sage named Rabbi Yanai, who the Torah says the Medrash says that he was studying the scriptures. And he heard this announcement, who wants a potion for life? So Rabbi Yanai looked out his porch, looked out his window, and told the peddler, I'm interested, come up here. The peddler says, you don't need this. You don't need this potion for life. But he pressured him, and he came up, and he took out a book of Tehillim, and he showed him this verse that we just mentioned. Who wants life? This is what David HaMelech in the Psalms said. King David said in the Psalms, who wants life? And what does it say after that? Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from deceit, stray from evil and do good. So that was the potion for life. Look, David HaMelech himself said it. In the Psalms it says it. Who wants life? The person who guards his tongue from evil. Rabbi Yanai said, all my entire life, I would read this pasuk, and I didn't know how to interpret it. Let's just translate it that way right now. The Medrash says, he said, I didn't know heichanu pashut, where or how to find its interpretation, until this peddler came and let me know. That's the story. So you have this clever peddler who's trying to get people to think that, and maybe he was, as a peddler, it means he was definitely selling something. He was a peddler. But at the same time, he was he was getting people's interest in what he had to say, building them up, offering a potion for life, and then telling them, look, it's right here. Who wants life? The person who guards their tongue from evil. So very clever little story, very clever thing that this peddler did to teach people not to speak Lashon Hara. But what did Rabbi Yanai get from this peddler? Rabbi Yanai says, my entire life, I didn't really get the full understanding of this verse until this peddler came around. What was he machadish? What was the novel thing? All he did was say a pasuk. This is a pasuk in Tehillim. Rabbi Yanai knew the pasuk. He knows it. That's what it says. It says in the pasuk, who wants life? The person who guards his tongue from evil. It's right there. So good. This person, the peddler, he was trying to get people. He was trying to get people to stop speaking Lashon Hara. So he played this little trick. He played this little clever trick to get to pique their interest and then let them know, here's the answer. But what was Rabbi Yanai saying? Wow, before this person, I didn't know what the pasuk meant. Why? What novel thing did the peddler show him? So I'm going to share with you two explanations. One explanation is given by Rabbi Yisachar Frand of Baltimore, and he explains in the following way. There is a book called Chafetz Chaim that was written about the laws about Lashon Hara. What's considered Lashon Hara, what's considered speaking evil, what's not considered speaking evil, what's considered gossip, slander, speaking derogatorily about people, when is it forbidden, when is it permissible. And the author of this sefer was Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan. He died in the early 30s. And he called this work Chafetz Chaim, who wants life, based on the verse that we said. And this is what really propelled the Chafetz Chaim to fame. And this book, he did something that no one really had done, to go ahead and compile all the laws of Lashon Hara together. And because of that, he was known as the Chafetz Chaim. He was known based on his work. There are many rabbis that were like that. And the Chafetz Chaim, besides his work on Lashon Hara, wrote many, many books. We live off the words and the teaching of the Chafetz Chaim to this day. And the Chafetz Chaim wrote this book about the laws of Lashon Hara. And when you read it, you can get a little bit discouraged, because it really does show us how many things that we say that we're not allowed to say because it's Lashon Hara. So a person might come to think that the best way to avoid Lashon Hara is not to talk. You know what? I'm just not going to talk. There's so much potential for sinning when I talk. I'm not going to talk. And there were people like that. In order to avoid speaking Lashon Hara, they barely spoke. And one might think that the Chafetz Chaim, the man who wrote the book on Lashon Hara, was a person who barely spoke. But those who knew him testify that the Chafetz Chaim was always talking. He was constantly talking. He had a lot to talk about. He was a leader of the generation. Many people turned to him for advice. He got involved in many things in his life for the sake of the Jewish people. He was always talking. But he knew how to talk. Because he studied the laws of Lashon Hara and internalized them, he knew how to talk. He talked, and he knew how to talk. Which means that the goal is really not to remain silent. Of course, there are times where it's better to remain silent. There are definitely times it's better to remain silent. Sometimes you have to remain silent, and sometimes you just kind of get a sense that if I'm going to get into this conversation, something's going to go wrong. I'm going to say something wrong, so it's better to be silent. If other people are speaking Lashon Hara and you're stuck amongst them, you remain silent. If you need to, if you can point out them speaking Lashon Hara, that's what you should do. If not, just remain silent. So there are definitely times where we have to remain silent, but from the Chafetz Chaim himself, we see it's not about remaining silent. That's not the goal. The goal is to talk, but make sure you say the right things. Make sure, number one, what you're talking about is not, wasteful talking. And when you do talk, and you'll need to talk, because there's a lot of talking that needs to be done, you'll learn how to talk properly, and it can be done. So Rabbi Frand suggests that what Rabbi Yanai learned from this peddler was that lesson. Because Rabbi Yanai himself may have looked at all the laws of Lashon Hara. He knows the pasuk says, "Who wants life? Guard your tongue from evil." And knowing all the laws and all the potential pitfalls that there are, he surmised that the best thing to do is don't talk. It's not easy. But then he met this peddler. Now, one has to understand that peddlers in those days, they were the ultimate schmoozers. They had to hawk their wares, they had to get the customers interested, and a lot of stories to tell. Met a lot of people on their rounds. A lot of good, juicy stories, a lot of good, juicy gossip to spread. The peddlers were known for that. So here, a peddler is the ultimate speaker, the ultimate talker, the ultimate schmoozing it up with people. And in those days, the gossip columnist of the Times, he knew a lot of stories, and they do a lot of stories and spread them, and people liked it. And probably the better stories they heard, the more they bought from the person. But this Reichel, this peddler, he's different. He clearly is a peddler. He's got to talk. He's got to hawk his wares. But he's teaching people not to speak Lashon Hara. Rabbi Yanai saw he was sincere. He wasn't a faker. This man was teaching something that he internalized, but he was a peddler. How does he do it? How can he be a peddler? How can he talk so much and still keep laws of Lashon Hara? The answer is that it's possible. And that's really the goal. The goal is to speak, to talk, but to speak, but to talk the right way, to say the right things. That's what this peddler showed Rabbi Yanai. And now Rabbi Yanai understood, truly understood. What does it mean, guard your tongue from evil? It doesn't mean don't talk. It means, what it really means is guard your tongue from evil. Guard your speech. Talk. But make sure when you talk that you say the right things. You don't speak badly about people. You don't speak Lashon Hara. That is how Rabbi Fran suggests that was the lesson that Rabbi Yanai learned from this peddler. The Ksav Sefer, the commentary of Ksav Sefer, offers an explanation. And he says that Rabbi Yanai was bothered by the following question. If you remember how we read the verse that we read, the verse reads, Misha Chavetz Chaim, who is the one who wants life, Oyev Yem Lerois Toiv, loves days to see good, guard your tongue from evil, he lives from deceit. Sur Ma'arav Asei Toiv, stray from evil and do good. Bakesh Shalom V'Ratfeyu, seek peace and run after it. So Rabbi Yanai had a question. The pasuk starts off saying, guard your tongue from evil and your lips from deceit. If you can guard your tongue from evil and your lips from deceit, you're not going to speak badly about people. It means you're not going to speak badly to people either. You're not going to be deceitful to them because you're guarding your lips from deceit. So it would seem that you're getting along with everyone. That's really where you should be at. If this is where you're at, if this is what you're doing, if you're truly living this, you should be okay with everyone. So why mention by this same person that he should seek peace and pursue it? Really, him? He has so many problems that he has to seek peace and pursue it? He's good. Okay, there's always problems with someone. But to go ahead and say that the person who loves life, we're talking about these most important things. Guard your tongue from evil, your lips from deceit, stray from evil, do good, seek peace. This person has to seek peace with others? He's in pretty good shape with people. Why such a focus on seeking peace for a person who probably is peaceful with everyone? The answer is because when the verse says, seek peace and pursue it, it doesn't mean the peace that you have with others. You're going to be in good shape with others if you guard your tongue. The point is that you should seek peace and pursue it to promote peace amongst other people. When other people are having problems, you go out and seek peace, try to make peace between them. You're not making sure that you're at peace with people. Of course you're doing that. But you're doing that because you're already careful. You're a very careful and sensitive person. But the point that the pasuk is saying is that when you know other people are quarreling, other people are fighting, there's a lack of peace amongst others, you seek it, you pursue it. And we know that Aaron, Moshe's brother, the high priest, Aaron HaKohen, this is what he was famous for. Aaron was famous for being one who sought out peace. He sought out people who were quarreling, and he made peace between them. It is known that the Medrash talks about how Aaron made peace between husband and wife, between man and his friend. This is what Aaron did. Aaron was very involved in being a peacemaker amongst others, because that is what the pasuk is saying. It's not just about you being at peace with others, but rather you promote peace. You promote peace between amongst other people, that other people should be peaceful with each other. And that's exactly what this Reichel was doing. This Reichel was going around teaching people not to speak Lashon Hara. When you do that, you're not just teaching people not to do a sin, you're promoting peace. When people guard their tongue and make sure they're kept what they say, when people argue what they say, that is what creates quarrels and conflict and hurt feelings. But if a person guards their tongue and learns how to guard their tongue and controls what they say, then they'll be at peace with others, and others be at peace with him. The Reichel was that person who was promoting peace amongst others by going out and teaching them about that if you want life, you need to guard your tongue. He wasn't just, again, making sure that he is not speaking Lashon Hara and getting along with everyone. He's trying to make sure that others are that way also. And that, what it says Reb Yanai, that was, says Ksav Sefer Reb Yanai, that was the novel thing that came to Reb Yanai. He didn't understand the pasuk when it says seek peace. Why are you so busy seeking peace? You're okay with people. The answer is, from the Reichel, he realized it's not just about you being at peace with others, but rather you should go out and promote peace amongst others. In the case of the Reichel, he wasn't going in and arbitrating between fights, but he was teaching people to guard their tongue, to make sure they don't say the wrong things, which is the greatest source of conflict and quarreling. He wasn't just making sure he's at peace with people, he was promoting peace amongst other people. That was the novelty that Reb Yanai realized. That when the pasuk says seek peace and pursue it, it's not about the peace that you have with others, but it's about making sure that others are peaceful with each other. Have a wonderful evening.